Hello, friends. Welcome to the Forward Think Tank podcast, a place for sharing stories of hope, inspiration, and wisdom on all things holistic health. I'm your host, Jamie Mazza, a holistic health coach and lifelong dancer. After being diagnosed with a rare thymic tumor and autoimmune disease, I am on a mission to fully, radically heal. Tune in as I share stories from my personal healing journey, interviews with forward thinkers and healers in the wellness industry, and stories from incredible humans who have gone through their own health challenges and continue to move forward in hope. Thanks for tuning in. So grateful you're here. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Forward Think Tank. Happy New Year's Eve. I am here today for a very special episode, year 2024 in review, the episode of gratitude. So this year has been a challenge, to say the very least. It has been a completely new chapter for me of learning, of understanding my body, of stepping up into my power, learning how to heal, learning to accept support, to embrace change and be quick with pivoting and making decisions that are large in scale, but also one where I can step back and see all of the beauty despite the hardship. And so I want to take time in this episode reflecting on all of that I have been blessed with. For those of you listening who have been following this journey, you might think, wow, she's really crazy to even think that way. But I feel like I have no other way to be. And when people come to me and they say, oh my gosh, you're so inspiring, so positive, I'm in awe of you. I don't know, maybe I am that unicorn who is finally somebody who for a long time was always the person who looked at life with a glass half empty. And maybe those of you who haven't known me for that long wouldn't believe that to be true. But it's taken a lot of learning and a lot of growth and a lot of understanding and exploration and self-development to really get to a point where I do feel in this chapter, I can truly see it that way. And I can embrace and witness and see, despite all the challenges, that one, I can handle them. And two, I can move through them with grace. And three, there has been so many wonderful things that have still happened this year along the way in regards to support of family and friends. So first of all, I want to shout out my entire network of family and also my best friends who have just lifted me up and supported even when they felt like they didn't know what to say or do, even just checking in on me or making me laugh or having those critical conversations, even when you're scared to ask questions. And there have definitely been times over the year where I'm like, I don't want to talk about it. But I would be nowhere without my husband, my friends, and family supporting me every step of this journey. And as I'm talking here, I'm listening to myself. I'm like, oh, I still sound a little nasally. So I have been fighting a little bit of a cold in the last few days, which honestly was probably a result of me overdoing it the last week and a half of the holidays, not sleeping enough, which I know always sets me up to not feel so great, but I'm doing fine. So I just celebrated my birthday on the 20th. I always feel like comes at a weird time of year where people are like, I don't know what day it is, but it also syncs right up with the end of the year. So it's kind of nice to have that synchronicity as I'm spending time reflecting on my year. Anyway, first and foremost, there have been so many magical moments along the way. I know Nick and I had been keeping a journal of, beautiful things that have happened throughout this entire experience because we don't only want to focus on the negative because there have been wonderful things that have happened to us. But here is what is on the top of my mind. We always have a choice to see the good, even when times feel tough and it feels like odds are stacked against us. I want to remind anyone who's listening, who's going through a hard time of their own, whether that is with their health or relationships or career change or just, navigating the world. Sometimes it can feel heavy, but we always have a choice to say what is working, what is something I can be grateful for right now, and how can I move forward? When I think back to the very beginning of the year, I had just went through my first round of conventional treatment. And that was a really hard way to start the year because I wasn't feeling good about it. And then I had a lot of physical things come up that I'm still in a way grieving and not fully ready to talk about. But there was a lot of change happening all around me, mentally, physically, emotionally. So when my best friends had reached out saying, if you're open to it, we'd love to start a GoFundMe. And I wasn't there yet. It was at a point where I was still really vulnerable and not a lot of people knew what was going on. I really wanted to keep it to myself. I was still processing, rightfully so. And, I declined and I said, thank you for the offer. I don't want to do that. I think I had so much pride at the time. Nick and I financially were trying to figure out how to make it work and not have to ask for help because him and I, we're both hardworking people. We try to be prideful in our work ethic. And so to ask for help can feel like you're not like you failed, but just, I don't know if you feel a little bit weak or like, you're sacrificing your ego or whatever it is. It was definitely an ego thing. But with all the changes that happened after treatment and my choosing to go the naturopathic route, unfortunately, a lot of those things are not covered by insurance. I still am to this day continuing a lot of those treatments. And sometimes I'm just like, who am I to be spending all this money that I don't have? But at the same time, if I don't have my health, then I have nothing. And so it's really shifted my priorities into what's important in life. And I did get to a point where I was like, okay, I'm ready. I also knew that putting the GoFundMe out there, obviously the goal of that is to spread awareness and to get the support from as many people as are, gracious and generous enough to help. So in doing that, obviously you have to explain why you're asking for it. So I just knew it would open the floodgates emotionally. But that is something I set up in January. And I can't tell you in hindsight how grateful I was for that. In a matter of days, the support we received was truly mind-blowing. And it's making me emotional just to think about because you realize in those moments how many people want to help and people maybe don't know what to say or don't live close or maybe don't even know you. Maybe they know your sister or your best friend and they want to support them too. So it was truly overwhelming for me for a very long time as that GoFundMe continued to reach more people. It was extremely humbling, but I cannot tell you the burden of stress that it relieved. And I'm not saying this in any type of way because I know there are so many people out there going through a health crisis like this who have little kids to take care of. And unfortunately, that's not our situation right now, who have jobs that they still need to go to day in and day out that are very demanding. And so there are a lot of different things that can cause emotional and physical stress to add on to something that's already so stressful. So it was a true, true blessing to start the year off that way, to have that support. Of course, it was really emotional for me because then it opened up the floodgates for people to ask questions and for people who I hadn't talked to in years to reach out. But it also made me appreciate and see how many people I have touched over the years. I mean, I had people 15 years ago when I first moved to Jersey City and I didn't know many people and started teaching Zumba. And these people were from all over the world. I think that's one of the beautiful things about living in the greater New York City area. There's a small pool of people who were born here. And then there are a very large group of people who come from all over the world for opportunity. So I had the blessing of meeting people from Europe, from the Middle East, from all over the place. And these people reached out to me that I haven't talked to in 15 years, people from high school, people from growing up, people from teaching at Equinox in the city, my old corporate job, like all over the map. So it was like a rush of a lot of heightened emotion. I think it got me comfortable whether I was ready or not opening up about all of this. But I think when you realize that it's okay to receive help, it's okay to ask for support, and it's okay to talk about it. I do think that's part of the healing journey for me. And that's not something that everybody feels comfortable with, certainly, but it's definitely been one of the biggest blessings that has allowed me to take a lot of stress off my shoulders, off my family's shoulders, and allowed me to heal myself in a way that I know is helping, where I don't feel like I'm digging myself in a financial hole. So that has been the one thing that has been like the biggest blessing at the top of my list. And at that time, when I released that, it was one of my best friends, Jen, who is always looking out for other people. She has one of the biggest hearts. So I just want to shout her out because she has 2 little kids. She's got multiple businesses and she's got so much going on, but she was one of the first people to reach out and say, let me know if we can do this. So her and, both of my sisters have been incredible. And they have completely different ways of loving and showing up and supporting. But at that time, like in the dead of winter where there was just so much happening, one of my sisters, Alexa, just packed up. She took a very active learning and desire to understand what I was doing with the metabolic approach, which I shared that book up front with a lot of people. And I think certain people maybe said, okay, this is overwhelming. This is your thing. Like, that's cool. I respect you. But there are other people like my husband and my sister, Alexa, who dove deep into understanding. And I think taking time to do that and taking time to see what I'm going through and understand it for themselves was a level of support that just meant so much to me. It's like I'm the one choosing to go through this. I'm the one choosing to be strict about my diet. I remember Alexa and my dad showed up to help me because I was such a shell of myself after going through treatment. I was, the first 3 or 4 days post-treatment, I was struggling physically to move around. And, I'm sure I bounced back pretty quick compared to most, but I didn't have the energy to do a lot of things. So my sister showed up with my dad, who's like my spiritual buddy and my emotional support system. And Alexa showed up the best way she knew how. She asked me, what are the things that you're able to eat? And she showed up with multiple bags of groceries with everything on the list, which I did not ask her for. And this is not a game of who helped me more or who did the most, but thinking about things that stood out to me over the year, that is one of them. She was very curious about the whole approach. So she showed up, she organized my house. For anyone who knows my sister, that's what she does. She cleaned, she cooked, and she sat with me, as did my dad. And, meanwhile, my other family members were holding down the fort at home, which is a lot when you have children and when you have work and when you have things going on. But they continued to reach out to me day after day. I don't think there's ever been a day where one of my sisters or one of my parents or one of my other family members of my husband or best friends, there's not a day where somebody doesn't reach out to me to check in. And especially in those early days, it was almost overwhelming. I felt like I couldn't respond to everybody as I was processing. So that is something that really stood out for me and made me feel so loved because I didn't even know what to ask for. When people are like, what do you need? As somebody who has prided myself in I don't need help, I got it, I'll do it myself. It still is hard for me to articulate the support I need. So that's how we kicked off the year. And it just felt like a huge embrace. And it felt very vulnerable and uncomfortable for me to put my ego aside and to accept that help. But it really did make such a difference. And then in February, a couple of my best friends, so shouting out to Hannah, who is just one of those people that you can literally share anything with. And it's a safe space and there's no judgment. She's been one of my best friends for 2 decades now, which is crazy because I'm not that old, but she came at a time where, again, there was just a lot of change happening and things that I don't feel comfortable yet talking about as I'm bringing this all to the surface. But she was there and she's like, I don't care if we just sit on the couch, we can do nothing. I just want to be there. And another one of my friends, Julie, these are my girls who are just have been in my life for so long that they're an extension of me. And this girl, I always acknowledge her for making the effort despite wherever on the map she is. And right now this girl lives in Los Angeles on the complete opposite side of the country, but made a point, as she does, to come and visit the East Coast and to spend some time together. And having that one-on-one time, which I think was what I needed, being in groups was too overwhelming because if you're going through a diagnosis and this feeling, there's so much change happening in your life that feels like it's all crumbling and you're watching everyone else move on with their seemingly normal life. And there's times where it really doesn't feel fair. And there's times where it really feels why me? So having the one-on-one support during those hard initial days in the new year, I'll never forget. And everyone else who couldn't be there physically, like I said, was checking in. So it just meant so much to me. I think the next thing I really want to spotlight, because I don't know where I'd be without them, and I know I've talked about many of them many times throughout these episodes, is the community of small business owners and some of my best friends who are in this Jersey City area. I mean, what a gift in hindsight. I never knew how much I would need to lean on the services that these friends of mine provide. So the first one at the very top of the list, who encouraged me to go to the hospital when I was walking around trying to work my job with one eye open, who could see that I was struggling probably more than I even knew I was, is Michelle, one of my best friends here and the owner of Busy Bee Organics. I look forward to having her on the podcast in the very near future because she has an incredible story and we have a great relationship. She dropped everything. I mean, 2023 at the end of the year when I first got the diagnosis, she was my family. She showed up in the hospital with Nick and I in the emergency room. And she's like, what do you need? I'm here for you. She brought toothbrushes. She brought food. She relieved Nick to allow him to go home and shower and get an overnight bag. Like, this is like the height of like us not even knowing what was happening. So she knows how I feel about her. And, she's like a sister to me. So having her support, and I know that there were times like early on in the new year where I was just like, I don't feel good. Can you come over? And so she did. And, you know, she is somebody who is very much a doer and a lover and a nurturer. And I think it was hard for her to know what the right thing was to do or say, or like what the capacity of like, how often can I come see you? Or like, you know, when can we just have that in-person connection, because I was just such a shell. But she showed up and she supported. She made me food throughout the year, which I know she was like waiting to do, but it got to a point where like later in the year after the autoimmune flare, I just couldn't function. So she showed up the best way she knew how and brought some healing, delicious food to my door, as she did throughout the year, supported me through so much. And I truly don't know where I would be without her. So Michelle, thank you. Good God, I didn't think I was going to get so emotional. But yeah, don't know where I would be without her. She has also allowed me to take a take a step back and do a lot more administratively in, you know, my role at Busy Bee. So I'm also grateful for that. And she is really the one who introduced me to this network of other amazing people in Jersey City. So the next person I want to shout out is Erin Kumpf. She is my acupuncturist. She's the owner of Erin Kumpf Acupuncture and Herbs. She is an herbalist, and truth be told, she was the first person I saw, the first stop that I made as soon as I got out of the hospital at the end of 2023. I had been keeping in touch with her. She obviously saw me when I was having issues with my eye, and we've been working together for the last going on 6 years, which is crazy. She's seen me through a lot. She's helped me hormonally. She's helped me with my cycle. She's helped me with stress and like managing all of that. And her treatments are incredible. Not only does she do that, but she is an herbalist. So when there's something going on, she's usually one of the first people I contact. When I was having issues with my myasthenia flared up, she brought me moxibustion sticks, which I'm going to have her at some point on the podcast so she can talk about a lot of these things. But it's great for inflammation. And she teaches Qigong. So for me, as somebody who's been very physically active, it's been hard for me to take a step back. But at the height of, you know, the beginning of the new year in 2024, when I had no level of confidence or comfort doing the physical activity that I was used to prior to the diagnosis, I would join her Qigong classes virtually weekly, which were the biggest blessing because it was also soothing for my nervous system, allowed me to still move my body, and truly felt really good on my being as a whole. So not only that, but she was extremely generous in her offerings and supporting me with all of her treatments this year. So Erin, you know how much I love you. You know what a blessing you are. You know how much wisdom you're full of because I pick your brain every single week. So I want to thank you for all you do for everyone in the community that loves you and sees you and gets treatment from you. and is also just blessed to have you as a friend. So thank you for that. Anand Sukadia. So his episode will be coming up very soon on the podcast. He is the owner of Om Life Wellness here in Jersey City, which is a wellness center full of awesome healing modalities. He has things like infrared saunas, float tanks. He's got cold plunges, and he also has the energy enhancement system. So for anyone who follows me on social media, you see those crazy colored screens that are full of healing magic, and we will dive deep into exactly what that is and how that heals the body in that episode. So stay tuned. But Anand and I have been friends for many years now. I've seen all that he's done at Om Life and all that he does to support the community here and offer healing and stress modalities and therapies. And he's also just a very dear friend. So he had been, again, extremely generous with his offerings and his help and support, especially with the energy enhancement system from the very beginning when he launched it at the end of 2023. And he saw me kind of like in the height of one eye opened, like deer in the headlights. But I was like, okay, great. This is a safe space that I can go into and heal. And it requires nothing of me but to just sit there. I don't have to worry about seeing people if I don't want to. Like I go into the room in the sauna and I close the door. But it has been such a supplemental support for my healing process. And so, Anand, I just, how grateful I am for you. Like, what a blessing that I knew all of these people and could call them friends. Anand, thank you for all that you offer. My friend Leah, I've shouted her out a bunch. She's a hypnotherapist. We've done sessions in the past, but this year, I think she was a huge pillar of emotional support for me. She sent me all the Joe Dispenza meditations that I've mentioned and just always checked in, gave me the space to express myself. And her and I talk a lot about the emotional healing piece. So having her to bounce my thoughts off of and just for love and encouragement, but also, to understand how important the mind is and to have those resources shared with me truly have changed my life, because I have dipped into Dr. Joe's, especially his morning meditation, so many times during treatment, but also like beyond that, because when I can't clear my head, when I have a lot of emotions bubbling up or like feel negative or just feel like I need to reset myself, I go back to that. So having access to that has been huge. So I want to thank Leah for that. Barris Sanmaz, he is the owner of Life Cap Farms here in Jersey City, which is a mushroom farm. So he has a mushroom CSA, which he offers to people in the community. He also provides locally grown, the cleanest, most beautiful, purest mushrooms, a lot of different healing varieties to restaurants all around this area. And then he also makes tinctures. So one thing I have been doing, especially since the autoimmune flare, and it has been something that I lean on every single night, is taking reishi, which is an incredible healing mushroom. It's great for inflammation. It's great for your immune system, for anti-tumor, anti-cancer, cognitive benefits. I mean, the list goes on. Reishi is such a powerful mushroom. And I know he's also working on getting some turkey tail out there since we've been in talks, and just talking to him is like a warm hug. I feel like we have been friends for so much longer than we have, and he just has a heart of gold. So Barris, I look forward to hopefully talking to you on the pod. He is just a wonderful human being all around. And I really just want to shed light on all these small businesses because they are all so mighty. And I hope that success continues to come to all of them in the new year. So Barris, I don't even understand sometimes how these mushrooms have helped, but I know that they're doing something good, because when I sleep so deeply, turning to the reishi tincture when my sleep is disrupted and I'm up in the middle of the night, it allows me to go back to sleep and get a few extra hours in. It's been so helpful. So I'm so grateful for your resources. My friend Jen Gonzalez, who owns Duty Free Girl, which is a colonic hydrotherapy center here in Jersey City. I mean, she is one of the funniest people. And if you check out her Instagram page, Duty Free Girl, you will see what I'm talking about. I mean, she literally does colonics for a living. So she's helping people with their digestion and all the shit out, quite literally. And when I started doing coffee enemas at the beginning of last year, she was one of the first people that I reached out to after I had gone through conventional chemo and my digestion then was a wreck, which happens a lot. So for anyone who has gone through it and you know what I'm talking about, the struggle is real, but I understand what an impact it makes on your hormones, on your immune system, and also on the health of your brain when your gut is not in good shape. So I reached out to Jen. I went to go get a colonic and I said, listen, can we also add a coffee enema onto this? I want to start doing these at home. Can you teach me how it works? I'd love recommendations for the products that you use, and I need to figure out how to do this at home. So, I'm a very open book. People are often surprised at how much I go into detail on these things. But when I tell you, yes, she showed me how to do it, but I'm one of those people that's very hands-on. So until I do it myself, I don't fully get it. I can't tell you how many times I texted Jen from my bathtub, which is where I usually set up the coffee enema, asking her questions, sending her pictures of how the setup looked, and, just constantly checking in with her. I'm sure she got a laugh out of it, but I just want to shout her out as well, because doing those have also had a great impact on helping my liver. My liver enzymes were very elevated at the beginning of this diagnosis. And whether it's through the supplementation, the diet changes, the stress release, or the coffee enemas, my liver enzymes have really normalized and gotten into a great place. So I want to shout Jen out. She's awesome. If you need a post-holiday cleaning, I suggest you check in with her. I would also love to talk to her at some point on the podcast as well. And I'm sure there's many I'm forgetting, so forgive me. A small business I want to shout out here is IV Elements. So Rebecca Lamarca is the nurse practitioner founder of IV Elements, and what a blessing to find her. She's located in Hoboken, New Jersey. And has multiple locations across New Jersey. So she is incredibly brilliant. We are going to have conversations on the podcast. She is somebody who I've sourced my mistletoe from. I've sourced the Helleborus from her. I go to get my high-dose vitamin C drips from her. More recently, I've been doing my ozone therapy there. She is such a wealth of knowledge in all that she offers in terms of cancer support, autoimmune support, viral support, immune support, but she also does all different types of drip therapies. So maybe you're just in need of hydration, or you have a hangover, or there are other things going on. So you need a B12 boost or anything like that. Rebecca is such an incredible source of knowledge. And it has been so amazing to make a relationship with her and all of the wonderful, nurturing, gentle nurses that are so good at what they do and so sweet and who have all become friends. Rebecca is a true powerhouse. So Rebecca, thank you for literally everything that you have done. She is also trained under Dr. Nisha Winter's metabolic approach. So when I found her, I was like, what a blessing, because the doctors and naturopaths I'm working with are based in Canada. So I'm not able to see them. It's more consulting and talking to them on video, which there's something to be said when you see people in real life and they see what you're going through and they're able to help and make recommendations. So having Rebecca be trained in that therapy and understand the approach that I'm going through head on has been something that has made me feel so seen and supported. So Rebecca, thank you for all you do. I know I will be coming into IV Elements many, many times in the new year. So I'm just so grateful that you exist. I'm so grateful for all that you've created with IV Elements, and what a blessing it is to have you near. I want to shift now. The amount of people that I have met and connected with who are thriving beyond their diagnosis has been such an incredible support for me, to be able to see people on the other side, to be able to see people living their life healthy, happy, continuing to make memories and continuing to enjoy life beyond their diagnosis has been so inspiring to me. So I want to shout out a few people. Callie Moynihan was one of the first people that I found who was a female who had a similar diagnosis to me in terms of thymoma, who had the wild and crazy surgery that I will be up against in the new year. And she has just been such a sweetheart. I mean, spiritually, we so connected. We have yet to meet in person, but we've had, FaceTime call, voice message all the time. And I reached out to her on Instagram, not knowing who she was, but just saying, I'm going through something similar. It is so inspiring to me to see your story. And just thank you for putting all this information out there, because it's so rare. I've had a hard time finding people to connect with. So Callie has been such a blessing in my life. I consider her, like a sister. She introduced me to a couple other women who also have had or are currently working through their thymoma diagnosis. So Diana Cardenas and Erin Moser, both of these women, like the four of us, are in contact quite often now, whether that's exchanging ideas for therapies or like how to nip a cold in the butt, or, like talking about fasting, talking about hormonal balance, talking about just like also the beautiful things in life. And just having these girls as like a sisterhood has been something that I never knew that I needed. And being able to tap into their resources, ask them questions, and have them understand so personally what I'm going through is something that I just thank God for every day. The metabolic cancer reset program, so Dr. Lori's program, having those weekly calls with people from all different walks of life, all different ages, male, female, younger, older, different types of diagnoses, having a place to share so openly and vulnerably. Hey there. If you are listening to this episode and thinking, wow, there is so much wisdom in here, I'm curious about the naturopathic oncology approach. Maybe you have a conventional team in place. Maybe you're freshly diagnosed and have no idea where to start. You're hearing Dr. Lori and I talk about the Metabolic Cancer Reset Program, which is a program she designed to help people going through a cancer diagnosis. It is heavy to sit with a diagnosis, and you may not get answers you need or support that you need from your conventional doctors, also from family members and friends. So if you're looking to support your health, get answers for what may be driving cancer in the first place, making tangible changes to your diet and your lifestyle, looking at a holistic lens to say, what can I do to support detoxification, digestion, to really strengthen my immune system and help to fight cancer and kick it in the butt, then this is for you. Dr. Lori was gracious to offer a free 30-minute strategy call for anybody who is listening to this episode, a loved one, a friend, family member, a colleague, or yourself. If you're looking to dive deeper into your health, be proactive, maybe you have genetic predispositions to cancer, so you're curious to learn what you can do to be proactive about your health, Dr. Lori is incredible. Her metabolic cancer reset program has truly changed the entire trajectory of this healing process for me. I'm so grateful to have her and her team, who is highly skilled and trained, in my corner. So if you're interested in a strategy call with Dr. Lori, I'm going to include that in the episode notes and description below. Check it out. Again, a free 30-minute strategy call to dive deep into your own personal situation. Because as we talk about in this episode, even if you have the same cancer diagnosis as someone else, nobody is apples to apples. We are all so genetically different and have different things in our environment that may contribute to this type of diagnosis. I encourage you to click on that link, set up a strategy call with Dr. Lori. I promise you will not regret it. It has been such a needed light in my healing journey. I hope you enjoy that gift. Thank you, Dr. Lori, for that gracious offer, and thanks for your support. Get ideas for how to support myself, being able to talk to Dr. Lori on a weekly basis and ask her burning questions that are coming up, whether that's supplement protocols or therapies or emotional things. Having this group of people who are thriving and taking the metabolic approach with me. And some of these people have turned into friends. I have their numbers. Some are in Canada, some are in Europe, but we stay connected beyond those weekly calls, and having their support and knowing that people are cheering me on, but also knowing people who are going through it and truly understand this challenge. Unfortunately, that we're all going through it, but fortunately that I can go through it with them and have support of people who truly understand what it's like to walk in my shoes has been huge. So I just want to shout them all out so much. My MCR group, I love you. Dr. Lori, Dr. Janet, you are angel doctors in my life this year. And I truly could not have gone through this year, rebounded so quickly from the conventional treatment, and also felt so good this entire time without your support. So thank you. I love you guys. I also, speaking of metabolically trained doctors, spent a couple of months in upstate New York, which is where my family's from, and in specifically Buffalo, New York, which is where I went to college. I went to Integrative Wellness Center, run by Dr. Leonard Kaplan. He is a wonderful person. He is brilliant. He offers a lot of different therapies. So a lot of the IV therapies that I talked about that I get at IV Wellness, IV Elements, but some that we also had from a blood test that I had done to see like what treatments would be most beneficial. He also is one of the very few people, I believe, in the US that is trained in the Weber technology, the laser technology, and photodynamic therapy, which is something that I did in efforts to help shrink the tumor. So that was a very intense first week, but I did a 6-week program there, and I just can't even tell you, like, one, how small the world is. So I want to shout out 2 of my nurses that I loved, my nurse angels there. They were just incredibly wonderful people. One of them was actually a friend of my choreographer when I was on the Buffalo Jills. So it was like crazy to make that connection. And then the other one was the sister of somebody that I knew in college and who also had a prior cancer diagnosis of her own. So to be able to reconnect with her, to have that love and support and truly feel like every day that I stepped into there, not only was I seen as a whole person and able to get face-to-face contact with these nurses and doctors, but I had never felt better. I mean, maybe not immediately going through some of the treatments, but like post-treatment, I had never felt better than I did this entire year than going to see Dr. Kaplan at home. And it also contributed to some necrotic tissue in the tumors. So I will take it. All my inflammation markers were down post-treatment. I mean, the staff there was just so warm, and I truly felt like I was part of a family leaving. So I'm sure at some point in the future, when I need a tune-up, I will be back there. But I want to shout out Dr. Kaplan because he was incredible with me. He worked on a totally personalized treatment plan. He still checks in with me to this day. We email a lot. He's just brilliant. And his center is awesome. And I know it's continuing to expand. And, they're adding more and more therapies there. So it's been wonderful to have worked with his team and to have him in my corner as well. While I was staying there, talk about a blessing in disguise, I want to shout out one of my friends from college who I truthfully haven't seen in years, but we reconnected, and it was such a wonderful thing. Zach Anderson, one of my good guy friends in college, I had reached out to him because the first week at Ohm in Buffalo was very intense. It was long days. We were doing the photodynamic treatment that entire first week. And I thought it would be a better idea, instead of driving an hour and a half each way to and from Rochester, where my family is, for Nick and I to stay that first week in Buffalo. So I reached out to Zach and I said, hey, I'm looking to get an Airbnb. Can you give me some insights on these neighborhoods? I haven't been to Buffalo in forever, and I'm not even familiar with the area. Lo and behold, a blessing in disguise. He's like, I'm actually getting an Airbnb of mine ready to come on the market. You can stay there. Consider this like my contribution to your healing process. And I cried because I'm like, you don't have to do that. He's like, it's going to be fully furnished. I'm getting it up and running. Like, what's your timeline? I told him my timeline, when I was going to be there, and it just all worked out that we were able to stay there. And then, like, the cherry on top was that it was a 15-minute walk in the same neighborhood where Ohm was. So the fact, and actually Zach had been treated by Dr. Kaplan because he also does stem cell therapy and a lot of injury recovery and so many other things beyond cancer care. He's really got an amazing place and so many different programs in place. So he also had the experience of working with Dr. Kaplan, which feels so good to hear that great testimonial and that good feedback. I feel like I'm going to be in the greatest of hands. So Zach, you have no idea what that did for one, just peace of mind, comfort in my heart. It's one of those things this year that's like all these people that have come into my life to show up, to support, to check in, to offer what they can, to like just be there. Has been such a huge blessing. I also got to see him and see his kids, and looking at all the blessings, I'm like, God, I know I'm leaving things out, but talk about synchronicity, talk about things that are meant to be. Meanwhile, I had been kind of kicking and screaming, hoping to get to Buffalo sooner this year, and it all worked out the way it was supposed to. I had a wonderful time being closer to family, getting to spend time with my sisters, getting to spend more time with my parents, some of my family. And of course, my nieces and my nephew, which is just precious time that you'll never get back. So I cherished that so very much. And so Zach, thank you for making that as easy as possible. Shout out to my nurses, shout out to Dr. Kaplan and his wife and the incredible team at Ohm, making that such a sacred time. I was able to go to Costa Rica this year, and it was such a weird thing because I'm like, oh my God, people probably think that I'm taking this GoFundMe money and going on a trip. Like, it was not like that at all. I can be so hesitant of spending money, especially at a time where like bills are stacking. My husband, who works at a commercial real estate firm here in New Jersey, had a contractor who has been a friend of his because he's been at the company for so long, who has a couple properties in Costa Rica. And he's told us over the years, like, anytime you want to use them, let me know. We're like, yeah, okay, thanks for the offer. You don't take advantage of that. You just say thank you. But when he learned everything that was going on with me, he came up to Nick and said, you let me know when you want to go. And I was just in such a mindset of like, yeah, like I need to do something good for myself. I need to get away. I need to get out of, the headspace of just being in constant healing and constant treatment and constantly focusing on all this. Like, we deserve a break. So why don't you see when Sam has the house available? So the only way we were able to take a trip like that is because we were so generously offered a place to stay. We had credit card points built up. And so we used that to book our flight. And what an incredible trip that was. Thank you, God, for that. To be able to get into the sunshine, get on the beach, feet in the sand, eat the local fresh food, experience the culture. I love Costa Rica. They are very much a like Zen, enjoy life, pura vida, like life is good. It allowed us to slow down. It allowed Nick and I to get some much needed time together to really focus on our relationship at a point where we had been focusing on my health the entire year, but allowing us to rekindle and refocus and recenter and just really recharge. I'm beyond grateful for that. And that feels like so long ago at this point, but like what a blessing. Went to Newport, Rhode Island this summer with Hannah, one of my best friends, her husband, and Nick, and had the most beautiful weekend that Hannah planned. Again, all by the graciousness of one of her best friends who knew what was going on, who had a home in Newport, Rhode Island. So shout out to the Nardones for graciously opening up your home to us. That weekend, it was just like so beyond kind. Like when I tell you my tears have overflowed so many times this year, it's because of things like that. Because of all the beautiful things, all of the acts of kindness and the generosity of people who are all around me. Like, it's such a humbling feeling. Starting this podcast, I want to shout out myself for continuing to keep moving forward. I call this the forward think tank. I was Jamie Forward before I was Jamie Maza. I'm a very forward person, but I think I often had a hard time putting wheels in motion and continuing the forward momentum in my 20s and even early 30s. And I had the idea to start this podcast many years ago. And it wasn't until this all happened and, the rug got pulled out from under me that I was like, shit, okay, I guess this is what I'm supposed to be talking about. I guess this is part of the reason why I'm here, to be sharing my story, to be teaching other people, and to be documenting my journey along the way. So like, what a special, weird thing it is. People are like, oh my God, like, it's like you're a natural. I'm like, I don't know. Sometimes I feel like I'm just like putting my facade on and I'm not even talking about myself. Like, it's just flowing out of me. It doesn't feel energetically taxing for the most part. It feels like I'm on a mission. So I hope that you can take some time to reflect on your own year and see all the beauty. I want to shout out myself. I'm proud of myself. I've totally amazed myself in my efforts to keep going, to continue to move ahead despite the setbacks, despite the challenges, because if this was me 10 years ago, I probably would have crumbled up in a ball and just like been destroyed at this point. But somehow, by the grace of God and the support of my friends and my loved ones and family, I am able to keep going. And I believe in myself and I believe in this approach that I'm taking. And I believe that I'm going to get to the other side and like continue to live many, many decades, a full life ahead. So, good job, James, for continuing to move forward despite the setbacks. And yeah, I want to shout out the new surgeon that I will be working with at NYU. So we're changing hospitals. We found a wonderful surgeon that I feel like I can trust, that I feel hears me, sees me for a human being, has confidence in himself, has confidence in the team, has done so many thoracic surgeries in the course of his career, and is also just a kind and caring human being. What a breath of fresh air that has been, and that has come to us in the last couple of months of the year. It has lifted the burden of fear and worry off my shoulders going through this surgery, knowing how complicated it will still be. Having somebody who has good energy behind it, who feels like he's on my team, who is in constant communication with me, is just like a 180 from the service I was getting at the prior hospital with the prior surgeon, and I'm not going to name names because it's just not even worth it. Energy is everything. Energy is important to me. I can read people's energies the minute they come into my circle. Some people feel good. Some people feel dark and heavy. Some people feel light and fluffy. And this man, knowing some of the challenges he had gone through in his own life, still continues to hold his head high and see people for who they are and wants a quality of life and wants them to be able to heal and, move beyond the surgery is just like such a blessing to have had that change in events and that change in providers. So very grateful for that. But I cannot leave this episode with shouting out my husband. So Nick, I tell you every day how grateful I am for you, how much I love you. He has put not only this new surgeon, the metabolic approach, working with Dr. Lori in front of me because of the research that he has been doing behind the scenes, but he's there for me every day. He sees the good days. He sees the bad days. He sees the tears. He sees the happiness. He dances with me. He cries with me. He lays with me. He prays over me. He, sometimes drags me to church every week. Like, he prays so hard. He's so full of faith. He is so glass half full. He is so, let's keep visualizing the great future ahead of us. Let's, just move beyond this and know and believe that we are going to get there and we are going to be guided by God. And he just has such a good head on his shoulders. And for anyone that knows Nick, how he is. He has the most generous heart. He would give the shirt off his back to anybody. He has just been such a light force. I just don't know where I'd be without you, Nick. I wouldn't be here, and I wouldn't be doing this most likely without your encouragement. And who knows, maybe I wouldn't even be following the metabolic approach. I just feel like if I was ever going to believe in God and the fact that God loves me and is real, I know that that's true because he put my husband in my life, and he's just my soulmate, just my kindred spirit, just my home base. He's just been there through it all, and he does it like it's no sweat off his back, and he doesn't show the stress, and he just continues to put a smile on his face and a smile on my face. So I love you, Nick. Shout out to my parents for loving me the best way they know how. My mom cooking, cleaning, coming here, like totally making sure like my laundry is done, everything's taken care of, making sure I'm okay. And my dad for all the spiritual healing, for the tuning forks and the breathing techniques and the Rosicrucian help, and making sure I'm mentally in a good place and filling me with hope and light and reminding me of the power within me. I feel so blessed beyond belief. This year has been such a roller coaster. It has been full of setbacks. It's been full of beautiful moments. It has been one for the books. But I encourage you on New Year's Eve to take some time to reflect on your year, look at what has been good, look at what has caused you to grow, look at maybe what needs to change or what needs to be pruned away and done no more, and create a positive visualization of how you want your new year to go, and then chunk it down. And Nick and I are going to spend some time doing this today and tomorrow, into habits, into small achievable goals. And slowly but surely, when you believe and you put in that action, you're going to get closer and closer to where you ultimately want to be. So thank you so much for tuning in. It means the world to me to have support around this podcast. Please, please, please like this, share this, comment on it, send it to a friend who needs it. Take some time to go through this episode and make a list of your own things that you're grateful for and share it with me. I would love to see what's going on in other people's lives, because sometimes it's like you put the blinders on. It's been a year of blessings and lessons, and I look forward to a lot of light, a lot of continued healing, and a lot of love in 2025. Happy New Year, y'all. Love you. Thank you for being here.